you'd never see me in a truck again. You thought wrong. Here I am in a Volvo. Good morning, everyone. Indiana Jack here, doing a final test drive on a truck. We got a driver starting tomorrow, and I'm taking her out for a whirl just to make sure it's running okay, and it is, right here in Calhoun, Georgia, home where I belong. Okay, well, she's good. I give my endorsement of the truck, the cosmetic things anyway, not the mechanical things. But the mechanics have been through the engine also, so she's good to go. Driver will be here tomorrow. We got 4 drivers starting today, so a little bit overwhelmed, but we can make it through this. Better having drivers starting than drivers stopping. You can see where almost all of our trailers are all rented out or leased out. So it's a good problem that we have. In fact, we're thinking of maybe getting more. I mean, as I've never been here where we've rented out and leased out all of our trailers and tractors. So even though we're in such a tragic time in our world history, we're doing great because we've sold everything. We're at capacity, so we're happy about that. Hopefully you guys are doing good in your trucking company too. Well, I'm here at the mothership, and I might be taking an epic trip. It sounds like a poem. It's not a poem, but I am going on a trip going up to Indianapolis and Chicago. I might bring you guys with me. We'll see. Everything's going great here at the office. I'll fill you in. Let's get on the road on the way northbound out of Calhoun. I'm Indiana Jack. Stand by a minute. We're going to get a car wash here. Let's go. Okay, we got the car wash. We're going to go on a little trip all the way up from here in Georgia up to Chicago, Michigan, and all places in between. Fasten your seatbelts. Well, we're going to cover a lot in this video. And we're starting out with a CPAP machine. Most of you know what that is. Do you have sleep apnea? Back in 2016, it was such a talked about thing on Trucker Talk Radio. I wanted to know if I had sleep apnea. So on my own, having nothing to do with a doctor or anything, I contacted NASTC, National Association of Small Truckers, or Trucking Companies, NASTC, out of Nashville. And I contacted their guy named Skip because they offer this. I said, hey, I want to take a sleep study to see if I have sleep apnea just for my own benefit. Because these days when you go in to get your physical as a truck driver, if you have a fat neck, the first thing the doctor says is, oh, you have sleep apnea, you need to get tested right now. Like it's a hysterical thing. So the way NASTC does it, it's a great program. They mail you this sleep study kit, and you do it right in your truck. And I did mine in 2016, New Year's Eve. It was a cold night in Oklahoma. I did my sleep study on the road in Old Red. Still had Old Red at the time. And I mailed the kit back to Skip. And he then emailed me if I had sleep apnea and the report and what the doctor said about it. And I did not have sleep apnea bad enough so that it would be flagged in the FMCSA rules that if you have so many sleep apnea events per hour, then you have to be on a sleep apnea machine, a CPAP machine. So boy, was I happy about that. And that is my story, the first part of my story about sleep apnea.
I've been working with Traveloco now for 2 years, providing for my family. They've been great. You know, when I'm not trucking, I'm at home, spending time with the family, maybe doing some fishing. After all that's done, at the end of the day, you might find me on YouTube, watching Life After Trucking with Indiana Jack. Stay tuned.
Okay, fast forward a few years to 2020. I started to wake myself up from snoring loud, and I wasn't feeling good at nights. So I revisited that in my life and thought, well, maybe if I get a sleep apnea machine, a CPAP machine, I'll sleep better, won't snore and wake myself up in the middle of the night. So I called up Skip and I said, hey, I want to get one now. Order me one. So all through, didn't have to go to a bunch of doctors and all that stuff, overnight sleep studies. I got a sleep apnea machine, and here's how that went down. I am at the worldwide headquarters to NASTC here in Gallatin, Tennessee, in their conference room, right upstairs at their conference center. Pretty nice, beautiful place. Downstairs is a whole room of truck drivers that are going through their class that they give here for owner-operators and other people that are involved in truck driving. Let me explain what I'm doing here and why in the world am I at NASTC world headquarters here in Gallatin. I'm checking out some of this stuff. Pretty cool. It's space age almost. Got to learn how to put all this together. It's like a puzzle.
So this is your CPAP. We like the ResMed S10. It also has a humidifier. So what I'll do is give you a quick brief introduction. The humidifier, it's real easy to clean. Some of the older ones you have.
All right, now I just have to, when I get back from this trip, I'm going to start using the CPAP machine and we'll see how I feel. The rest of this trip, we're going to Chicago, Michigan, Indianapolis, and just see some sights there. Won't be so interesting to you. Maybe some pop culture type things in Chicago, and then we'll come back to Calhoun. Let's see how the rest of this trip goes. I'm Indiana Jack, and welcome. Well, this is my house where I lived, right here in Schaumburg. 2 years, 7th and 8th grade, right here in Schaumburg, Illinois. A little bit of emotion. This was the DeBolt's house. They had like 10 kids, and all the letters of their houses, all the letters of their kids began with a D. There was Danny, David, Deborah. I don't even remember the rest of the kids, but they were like the main gathering point to everyone in the neighborhood. David DeBolt, Danny DeBolt. I've Googled them and I can't find them as a group. So I don't know what happened to them. Interesting. This was in 1971. Wow. Off to my junior high. Real quick, don't click off yet. We'll get over this in just real quick. We'll go up to my school where I spent 2 years, 7th and 8th grade, going to junior high. Jane Addams Junior High. What I said earlier about emotion, it's not emotion. The correct word is nostalgia. My dad was nostalgic. And so I think I got that from my dad. Very nostalgic man. My mom, not as much. But enough of this boring family tour of Schaumburg. Let's get back out there on the highways and the byways where I belong. Our family McDonald's, which obviously it's not a McDonald's anymore, it's a donut shop. But what an interesting, real quick story about this McDonald's. Many years later, the man that used to manage this McDonald's would later work for me at one of my businesses in California. We were talking about work one day, and he told me he managed a McDonald's in Hanover Park, Illinois. And I described it, and he said, he was surprised that I knew what that was. I said, yeah, that was our McDonald's, and he managed this at the time that I would have gone here as a kid. Just thought that was an interesting story that, 20, 30 years later, the manager of the McDonald's where I went to as a kid would work for me 2,000, 3,000 miles away in a completely different setting. My last mention of nostalgia, I promise. The Leaning Tower of Pisa. It may look like that's what this is, but no, it's not. It's a YMCA in Chicago, in Skokie, Illinois, actually, where I stayed at as a kid. I always wanted to come back here and see what it looked like now. It really looks like the Leaning Tower in Italy, Leaning Tower of Pisa, but this is not. Really awesome. It's a tourist thing, really. It used to be a nice hotel. It was a YMCA then. We stayed here, and it's still a YMCA. It's not as nice now as it was then, but a cool thing, if you're ever in Skokie, Illinois, right near Chicago, stop in if you want to just see something really cool and stretch your legs for a second. At one time, I actually climbed all the way at the top of that. I don't think I could do that now. Oh boy, that's it for nostalgia. This lady should be shot. Oh, this is not a Wendy's. If I could come back from this life into another life as something, I'd probably request that I come back as a nomad, where all I had to do was travel around the country. I think God might say to me, well, why don't you just be a truck driver? Then you would have some purpose and have a reason to be a nomad. I don't even need a reason. I just like to travel, being out here on the open road. There's something about that feeling of traveling that's a great feeling. And it's a good enough reason, just that feeling that you get when you're traveling. It's a good enough reason to be a truck driver just for that reason alone. That's my opinion this morning. Let's get traveling again. Just a real quick message here. I'm never going to stop talking about DAT. That's DAT Solutions, my favorite software. If you're a truck driver, an owner-operator, if you're a business owner, a broker, put your loads on DAT. Everyone looks at DAT. Everyone that is in the trucking industry, it's the oldest software that everyone's been using for years and years. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of loads on there. 30 days free if you click the link below.